The world's greatest scientists and brightest minds had been placed in cryogenic sleep inside a specially built underground bunker designed to last 10,000 years, so that one day they could awaken and help rebuild civilization after a global catastrophe. At the time, horrifying footage of fires and explosions had flooded the news. During a press conference, the President of the United States had announced the launch of the final and most ambitious project yet, its goal to protect every citizen from the looming catastrophe. But reporters had been deeply alarmed. They had received intel that engineers and scientists were being quietly taken at night to a secret underground facility. To them, it could only mean one thing. The government had already made its decision. They would survive. The rest would not. Deep beneath the surface in one of the bunkers, a man began to awaken from cryogenic sleep. Climbing out of his pod and slowly regaining his senses, he surveyed the control panels and computer systems before heading off to wake his partner. But his partner was already awake, pleading to be released from his capsule. Once freed, the man complained that his sleep cycle had been longer than his colleagues. Shaking off the last traces of grogginess, he walked over to the computers, ran a systems check, logged in to confirm that they were both alive, and checked the air quality on the surface. The results were disappointing. Just like in previous cycles, the air remained toxic. As they reviewed the list of tasks scheduled for their brief wake-up period, one of them, an engineer, noticed seismic activity near the surface. It was a very bad sign, but Bauer brushed it off, reasoning that if the quake had truly damaged the bunker, they would already be dead. Toxic air would have seeped in and killed them during sleep. They divided the tasks and got to work. They had only 2 hours before the cycle ended, and 20 minutes had already passed. After a brief pause, the man stepped toward the board covered with photographs. Suddenly, a woman's voice broke the silence from behind him. Turning around, he saw a young woman smiling softly. She told him that he had appeared in her dreams the night before. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by Bauer, who asked if his partner had finished the system diagnostics. Reluctantly, the man stepped out of the room and returned to work. But the woman reappeared behind him, clearly upset that he hadn't told Bauer about her, even though he had promised he would. Feeling a flicker of guilt, the engineer promised to share everything soon. Bauer overheard the exchange and looked puzzled, unsure whom his partner had been speaking to. Not wanting to explain, the man buried himself in the life support diagnostics for the scientists asleep in the cryopods. When Bauer returned, he immediately sensed that his partner had been communicating with someone from among the sleepers. With barely concealed irritation, he vented his frustration. He said he was tired of wasting his life on the sleeping scientists. He doubted the air would ever be safe to breathe and resented how, while these people remained frozen in time, they were slowly losing their own lives taking care of them. He also couldn't understand why the scientists mattered, especially that odd herpetologist on board. His partner patiently explained that the herpetologist specialized in reptiles and amphibians and insisted that these scientists were humanity's last hope, the final keepers of knowledge essential for rebuilding civilization. But Bauer remained skeptical and unconvinced. As they walked down the corridor, the engineer tried to persuade Bauer that their work was critical, but Bauer wouldn't budge. After completing his tasks, the engineer sat down to watch TV while Cartwright dug into the records and calculations, trying to figure out how long it would take for the air to clear. Bauer, though, wasn't interested in the data. He was glued to a program he had already seen dozens of times. Right after the game, a news segment began replaying old footage. The anchor reported on multiple explosions around the world. According to sources, a hybrid nuclear chemical weapon had been used, destroying Tel Aviv earlier that year. The engineer was outraged by Bauer's apathy but decided not to argue. With 17 minutes left in their wake cycle, he set about mixing sleeping cocktails and left Bauer to prepare the concoctions. He headed to the bathroom with an adult magazine in hand. Once the systems check was complete and the capsules powered back on, the engineer retreated to the supply room. That was when the hallucinations started again. He saw the young woman finishing the cocktails. When he returned to the main room, he suddenly noticed one of the capsules sparking, then catching fire. With just 7 minutes left in their shift, he panicked and yelled for Bauer to get out immediately. Bauer bolted out with a fire extinguisher, and together they managed to put out the flames, but the capsule was ruined. Bauer flew into a rage, blaming his partner for not thoroughly checking the systems. At that moment, the lights went out and oxygen stopped flowing. Their shift was over. Yet, to their surprise, they could still breathe. Going through the documents, they discovered a backup air supply unit and decided to find it. Armed with a flashlight, they located the emergency valve for electricity and oxygen and opened it, but nothing happened. The lights stayed off and breathing became harder. Thinking they were about to die, Bauer confessed that he had once had a wife and 3 daughters. The program had only accepted singles, but he had lied. He never expected the end of the world to actually come. Now everyone else was still up there, while he was trapped down here, alive. Suddenly the lights flickered on, the ventilation system kicked back in, and the timer reset. They had 2 more hours to fix the problems. Sifting through all the documents, they tried to figure out how to repair the capsule and locate the part storage. Bauer was furious. It was obvious the bunker had been thrown together in a rush, with many things left unfinished. But his partner discovered another storage room on the bunker's blueprints. Taking a risk, they decided to check it out. To reach it, they had to break the seal on their compartment, knowing that opening the hatch would release oxygen and cut down their time. Nevertheless, they went ahead. As they walked through the new section, Bauer deliberately made strange noises to scare his partner. It cracked him up. They entered one of the rooms and searched it but found nothing. In the next room, they saw a collection of crates. The engineer spotted his imaginary girlfriend, Abby, near one of them and decided to check it out. Inside, they found the parts they needed. After grabbing everything, they headed back to the main hall. After fixing the capsule, Bauer volunteered to test it. His buddy objected. It was his own chamber, so he felt he should be the one to test it. But Bauer insisted, and the man relented. Bauer got into the capsule and noticed an oxygen leak. He asked Cartwright to check the compressor, and Cartwright left to inspect it. Suddenly, the capsule malfunctioned completely, and Bauer was gasping for air, on the verge of suffocation, until Cartwright rushed back and saved him, damaging the equipment even more in the process. Snapping back to reality, Bauer was furious that Cartwright had taken so long to come. He had nearly choked to death. Cartwright explained that he had been nearby the whole time but couldn't find anything to cut the capsule's film. He also reminded Bauer that it had been Bauer's idea to test someone else's chamber in the first place. With the second capsule now unusable, Bauer suggested freeing up space by killing one of the sleeping scientists so Cartwright could take that capsule. His partner flat out refused to sacrifice an innocent life. They had been hired specifically to protect the scientists. Bauer tried to convince him that it was their only way out, and eventually Cartwright relented. They planned to inject one of the sleepers with a lethal dose of morphine. But at the last moment, Abby stopped Cartwright and suggested a different approach. Realizing how close he had come to crossing a line, Cartwright proposed an alternative plan to Bauer. Bauer immediately rejected the idea, and a fight broke out between them. After exchanging punches, the engineer finally agreed to try a different tactic. Cartwright suggested heading to other sections to ask for help. Since other labs were still logging activity, it meant people might still be alive. Bauer hesitated. If they depressurized another section, they'd have even less time. But Cartwright was willing to take the risk. He suited up in protective gear and left their section, slipping into the neighboring shelter, where he almost immediately stumbled upon a dead soldier's body. Moving deeper inside, he noticed a faint blue dust lingering in the air, the toxic contaminant poisoning the atmosphere. After some searching, he found the sleeping quarters. But everything was dead silent, no power, no signs of life. Feeling the weight of defeat, he was about to give up when Abby suddenly appeared again, urging him to keep fighting. Just then, Bauer's voice came over the radio. He had found a way around to the other section. Following Bauer's instructions, Cartwright crawled through the cramped ventilation shafts and was horrified to discover the bodies of others who hadn't made it. Reaching the target section through the bypass route, Cartwright found it utterly destroyed and its inhabitants long dead. Climbing out through a hole to the outside world, he saw a ruined city stretching into a barren, lifeless wasteland. Returning to the wrecked section, the reality hit him. Everyone here had been dead for a long time. While trying to boost his radio signal, Bauer spotted a knife on a nearby table, the very one Cartwright had been searching for. Something about it didn't sit right, so Bauer decided to dig through the recordings. As Cartwright scanned the area, horror dawned on him. The entire system had been a lie. Most likely, they were the only survivors. The activity logs from other sections had been a cruel trick to keep the technicians from feeling alone. Meanwhile, Bauer reviewed the security footage, and with a bitter edge, saw that Cartwright had indeed rushed to save him at the last moment. He realized he couldn't just walk away from all this. Back in the bunker, Cartwright confronted Bauer, who now gripped the knife tightly. Bauer declared he had watched the footage and knew the truth. Cartwright had tried to kill him. Cartwright pleaded, insisting Bauer had misunderstood and begged for a chance to explain. But Bauer was resolute, convinced Cartwright was dangerous. He refused to let him back into the main section from the intermediate one. Knowing his suit was almost out of oxygen and that he was moments from suffocating, Cartwright made a desperate decision to find another way. Abby appeared once more, standing firmly by his side. Crawling through the ventilation shafts, Cartwright listened over the radio to Bauer's angry accusations and threats. Bauer tracked him on the cameras but eventually lost sight of his partner. Taking advantage, Cartwright navigated a back route through the vents and slipped into their section. Relieved, he decided to return to the main hall. But suddenly a gunshot cracked overhead. Bauer had found a pistol and was ready to settle the score. Cartwright ducked into cover and called out, apologizing and trying to calm Bauer down, offering to make peace. Bauer refused. Seizing a moment, Cartwright quietly slipped past and returned to the main hall. There, he inspected the medical cabinet, weighing his options. Abby appeared again. She urged him to kill Bauer before Bauer killed him. But Cartwright wasn't willing to give up hope. He believed there was still a way to fix things. Suddenly, another shot rang out. Bauer had shot Cartwright in the shoulder. A fierce struggle broke out. Cartwright shoved Bauer away and bolted into the cryo chamber room. A small slip of paper fell from his pocket. Bauer picked it up. It was a photo of Abby lying among the sleepers in the cryopods. Tracking her down, Bauer threatened to kill her if Cartwright didn't surrender. With no other choice, Cartwright outsmarted him and injected Bauer with a lethal dose of morphine. Realizing it was the end, Bauer accepted his fate and said goodbye before slipping into unconsciousness. 5 minutes later, the power and oxygen cut out again. Left alone, Cartwright headed for his cryopod. After what felt like an eternity, the surface air finally became breathable again. The system automatically woke everyone from cryosleep. Cartwright, aged and worn, stirred awake with the others and spotted Abby among them. Did a person truly retain their humanity when they were completely isolated and all alone? What did you think? Did the ending surprise you, or were you expecting it all along? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next movie breakdown. Want more? Check out our recap of similar movie right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.